So in this video, I wanted to go over some of the Vocaloid fan art that I made this year. And to be honest, I've been in an art slump since like 2024, and even with being busy with school this year, I was actually able to make some art that I thought came out really cute, so I wanted to share some of my favorites. By the way, I don't have any time lapses of the drawings I made because they were all made in Fire Alpaca and I didn't record them separately. But here's some of the folders and layers for one of these drawings for proof that this was made by me. I don't condone generative AI in art, and neither should you. So my first piece of the year was made in January after our Lord and Savior Miku was added to Fortnite. And yes, I made a Fortnite account just to drop $37 in V-Bucks so I could be her the day she released. I'm honestly still convinced this is the closest we got to world peace because you load into a lobby and find like 10 other Mikus in a circle spanning the Miku Miku beam emote, and it was just genuinely beautiful. But anyway, I made this shortly after she got added because I love the cat Miku skin. She is such a cutie. This design is gorgeous. But looking at this now, there's definitely some things I'd do different if I made this like today, because the hand and the wonky keytar keys are honestly kind of bugging me. I also wish I shaded this because it just would look so much more complete that way. But ultimately, like, considering I hadn't sat down to draw many months before this, I think it came out pretty cute. I remember the gradient in her hair being low-key confusing to do, but I think it didn't turn out too bad in the end. And going forward, you'll see that I love using lots of colors in my art, and I think that's my favorite thing about this drawing, but that's also partly thanks to blue and pink always looking just gorgeous together. So for being my first drawing of the year after coming off a mini art hiatus, I think it's a pretty good starting point. So only 3 days after the last drawing, I made another because I had lots of inspiration. So I don't know how widespread this was on other platforms, but I remember after Rotten Girl by Sawtone was released, on TikTok lots of people were comparing Rotten Girl Miku to Plus Boy Lun. People were even making like full-blown Vocaloid high school AUs with these two, plus the Gyaru Teto from Magical Miracle Metagal Froze by Fury. It was honestly like incredible to see. But anyways, I decided to make some fan art of Rotten Girl Miku and Plus Boy Lun because I thought this was just so funny. And to be honest, I really also like the colors on this one, especially the background, because this is such a pretty shade of lavender and it actually like works really cohesively with the other colors. I think Miku also looks pretty cute. Her hair especially has like lots of fun shapes that I really like because I remember I was trying to make it look kind of messy. And honestly, looking at it now, Len's clothes kind of look ill-fitted. And his bangs look kind of dumb, but that's just a me problem. Cause like, love Len, but what are these fuck-ass bangs, bro? They are so difficult to draw, and for what? But anyways, I also like the little doodles on the side because look at them, they're so silly. Both Miku and Len's poses are really stiff and awkward, but that's what I was going for, so I mean, I think it like works here. But you can tell that I just phoned it in when it came to the hands, and like, to be fair, I fucking despise anatomy, especially hands. So I mean, I get it. They're not awful and I think they get the point across, but they're also like reminding me of like Lego hands. Before I put the next drawing on the screen, I just want to give a warning for blood in this next drawing. Skip to the title on the screen if that isn't your thing. This next one was also made in January, so I was keeping the art streak going. So this one is based on one of my current favorite Rin and Len songs by Miyamori Bangoku, and I'm probably going to say this so wrong, I apologize, but the song is Kowloon Stray Dog. And also just like go check out Miyamori Bangoku, they have so many bangers. But anyways, I think the composition for this one is probably one of my favorites, if not my favorite from this year. I remember I struggled so much coming up with the sketch for this one, but I just love how this like turned out to look kind of like a little comic. Also, the black gradient leading into the second panel was so annoying, don't even. I probably did it in a really tedious way, and there might have been a better way, but I just remember it being really time consuming to do. But I mean, I'm really glad I did the transition between the two scenes because it just looks so clean, and I love how much like darker the lower scene is in contrast to the top panel. I also had fun with this drawing because I got to do a more detailed background than I usually do. I used to do this actually a lot in my art, and it was really fun getting to do it again and work with a limited color palette to try and make it look cohesive. I also overlaid a texture on the background, which is something I usually don't do, but I think it actually makes it more interesting here, so I liked trying that out. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm not the biggest fan of how Rin and Len's faces turned out. I wish I had spent more time in the sketching process working on it more. Like, I can't even explain exactly what I don't like about it, but I just wish I had went through some more revisions. That being said, the bottom scene was so annoying perspective-wise, and it took so much trial and error and so many reference photos. But honestly, it paid off, because is this blood realistic at all? Probably not, but come on, the way that it drips off the kunai is so cool. Like, this composition is tough. So now we're skipping to April, and I should mention, I definitely draw less as the year went on, so the drawings will get more spread out over the year from now on. But anyways, I really wanted to make some fan art of my favorite Vocaloid producer, Pinocchio P. I really love a lot of his music, but at the time I was really obsessed with Magical Girl and Chocolate, so I drew this. I do like this one, but I think the dark background really throws me off because I rarely use colors so dark, and when I do, it's for really small parts of the art. Plus, this Miku design has a pretty monochrome, like, color palette, which is basically the opposite of the kind of color palettes that I like using. The colors are definitely out of my comfort zone, but like, still, given that, I don't think it turned out too bad. Also, let's like ignore the hands, please, because like I mentioned, I hate drawing. I don't even want to begin describing how many reference photos I looked for, and I even tried making my own, but like at some point I just had to accept that the hands are gonna look weird because of the angle I was drawing them at. So when I do shading, I like to do it in one solid color on a normal layer just to plan out where I want the shadows to go. I usually use a really neon color so it's easier to see, but then I'll go back with the color that's underneath and change the layer to an overlay setting. But this time I love the neon color, and honestly I think this adds a lot of the color that I, in the moment, was just missing using. I think it ended up cool, and this piece inspired me to try using really neon shading in some other drawings too, which was really fun. So remember how I mentioned that I love Pinocchio P so much? So when I tell you I listened to Don't Believe in Tea for the first time, I actually ascended. I absolutely love how Miku sounds in his style. It's so iconic, but like, oh my gosh, Teto sounds so insanely clear and gorgeous in his tuning as well. I replayed the song constantly the day it came out because I just couldn't wait for it to release on Spotify the next day, so I knew I had to make fan art of the song. So I made this draw over of the MV from the chorus, and this was actually really fun. Pinocchio P's art style is so pretty and iconic. I love just watching his music videos because he makes a lot of them himself. So I really like doing this draw over because it kind of let me get a better idea of his style, and like not everything is the same as the original, like especially with the hair and the faces. But to be honest, this helped me get like a better idea of clothing folds and hands because I hate drawing those. It was kind of like a mini art style study in a way, which was actually pretty fun. I think this was just a really enjoyable low stakes project, and it gave me even more respect for Pinocchio P because the fact that he can make songs and then make fully animated music videos while still releasing multiple songs a year is like incredible. So you know how I love using colors. If you've seen even a single frame from the MV for Static by Flavor Folly, you know that it just was inevitable that I had to make fan art for it. So this was another fun drawing to make solely because of the colors. Like, I was thriving with this color palette. To be honest, I remember I struggled a lot with the posing for Miku on this one because I was drawing it in my art style, which is really different from the rubber hose style in the MV. But I mean, I think it turned out okay. But all the text in front of Miku definitely helps a lot with it because it kind of distracts you from what's going on in the back. Also, if these hands look familiar, it's because I literally copied the hands I drew from the last piece. So thank you Pinocchio P for that because I would have had so much trouble with the hands on my own. I also remember struggling with the silhouettes in the background too because instead of just making like a normal sketch, I decided it would be easier to freestyle them and just go based off kind of the shape alone and just draw the silhouette. It was so difficult to make the hands actually look good because of the way I did it, and you can tell I gave up when I got to the blue silhouette because Miku is just a blob. And to be honest, I'm not a big fan of how Miku's bangs look, but for some reason they look a lot better on like the little tiny Miku on top of the TV. Maybe it's because it's just less details, or it was one of the last things I drew for this piece, but not gonna lie, I think that is my favorite part because the tiny Miku just looks so adorable. They made the word scrunkly to describe this creature. Look at her. So this next one was actually made in July like the last one was. So when I think of Project Diva modules, not gonna lie, I think of the Infinity Miku first. But the second one that comes to mind is this one. I really wanted to draw this Miku module because she is just one of my favorites in the entire game because she's just so iconic. This one took forever to sketch because there were so many revisions in between the first sketch and the one I finally decided to use. At first, I was using a reference image, but each revision got farther and farther away from it, So that's why the hand looks like that, but once again, we don't talk about it because if we don't acknowledge it, it can't hurt us. But other than that, to be honest, I think this actually came out pretty cute. It's simple, but once again, blue and pink always look super good together. I think all the little icons around Miku are really cute and makes it look more like an actual magazine spread. It was really fun because I got to put in some references like the leaks and the globe. I also like doing the text because I decided to put the opening lyrics of World Is Mine, which like, look at this. It only felt right to put those. So that was actually the last Vocaloid fan art I made this year because I got so busy with school in the fall. But I did want to show off 2 other pieces I made this year for other series that I really like. So first is the Seki K fan art I made in February. Like, oh my gosh, The Disastrous Life of Seki K is such a comfort show for me. I watched the entirety of season 1 at least 3 times now, probably more. But, you know, in February I was going through one of those rewatches and knew I had to make some fan art. So as you probably noticed, I mainly draw feminine characters. So that's why I decided to draw Kiriko, which is Psyche's girl form. I decided to make a magazine cover themed around coffee jelly because, like, if you watch the show or read the manga, duh. I'm not gonna lie, I still kind of really like the pose and the way I pulled it off. It actually came out together pretty well overall. And I gotta point out the way the skirt drapes over the legs, especially because it just looks so simple. But like, not to toot my own horn, but I think it came out really nicely. It's so simple, but it just works so well. I also really liked adding some references to this one too, like the number on the barcode being Psyche's birthday, August 16. I think the page 23 thing is also a reference to him being in class 2-3, if I remember right. This came out really cute in my opinion, and this is actually what inspired that Miku magazine that I showed off earlier. But I made another magazine cover just this November because for some reason these are just like super fun for me to make. So this one is of Oka from Yandere Simulator. And before we go further, I cannot stress this enough. Fuck Yondev! I fucking hate that man! But, guys, every few years, my Yandere Simulator obsession re-emerges from the depths of my mind and I get obsessed with the game again for a few weeks and binge watch the entirety of the Cub Scouts Janssen playlist. I blame the nostalgia. Anyway, I decided to draw my girl Oka because she's my favorite, and this is actually also kind of a redraw of this Oka drawing I made almost like 3 years ago now, when I was going through my Janssen obsession again. It was kind of a pain in the ass to actually figure out how the fuck this angle works, and shout out to one of my friends who kept giving me feedback on the like 500 whips I shared with him because I could not for the life of me make the hair look good. But this was actually really fun to draw once I got past the sketching process. Once again, with these magazine-inspired drawings, I had so much fun adding references. I had to add the skull and pentagram because she's the leader of the occult club. But the 2-2 on the barcode is a reference to the class she's in, and I remember the page 15 is a reference to the fact that Oka first appeared in a Janssen build released on the 15th of the month. And of course, the Oka-Cola is a reference to Cub Scouts Janssen series. There were parts that were really tedious, like all the spider webs in the background. Those took forever. But I think this turned out really cute. I mean, especially compared to the one from 2023, this is like a huge improvement. But yeah, that's the end for this little art recap. Thank you for watching. Hopefully next year, if I make more art, I can make another video like this one because it was actually really fun to look back on some of my favorite pieces from this year.